It's important to note that if we add this zooming in, zooming out code, it's going to... The zooming out is not going to be centered. Zooming in and out will also make the camera shift to like the left and right and up and down, because the camera will now be on a different grid, right? Like if you start out like on if the camera starts out on a 4x4 grid and you zoom out to be on an 8x8 grid, well, that's not gonna it's not gonna line up. It's gonna look like the camera has shifted either to the right or left and up and down. That is by design, because I'm trying to make a camera that's going to work well as a tile map editor. Right? We can work on a different style camera later, but right now I'm trying to work on a tile map editor centric camera. Okay, with that little disclaimer out of the way, let's get to it. So let's just grab onto this force update function, because we know that's going to get into the code we need. And we have our read event function, which right now is like reading the arrow keys, right? So arrows, blah, blah, blah. And then if any one of these is pressed, we're going to update. So right now, it's going to be a little bit dirty the way I'm going to write this. But I'm not sure what the key would be called. Let's actually press the plus and minus keys and see what kind of feedback we get here. So minus key and then the plus key. Okay, so when we press the minus key and plus key, it registers as a minus and an equal. What if I'm holding down shift? Does that, well, you know what, I'm not going to worry about it. We can just, okay, so over here, we'll just do like if 0 or, and then plus equals key or minus equals key. Or the other thing was it could be just in case underscore and just in case. What was the other thing? God, I can't think. Oh, it's a minus and an underscore and then a plus and an equal. So I should probably put those together. Okay, so if any of those are pressed, then it's our zooming in and out. Let's keep with a similar pattern here of calling update. And then we need something like do we have some type? We had some type of cleanup code. Oh, let's not worry about it. So I just want to get this over with as quickly as possible. So if the key, if plus equals key, or, and then the plus could also be equal. I'm just trying to cover my bases here. And then else, not else. And then minus equals key, or the same key pressing shift as underscore. Okay. And then I think all we got to do is, we don't even have to make a function call here, do we? Because we just have to change that tile exponent. Though if we do manually change the tile exponent, we're going to have to add some clamping logic. So let's just take that tile exponent value, and we will just plus is zooming in, right? Because it's going to be like plus 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 plus, and you think of that as like magnification, right? So since plus is like zooming in, that means that we're going to make it smaller. All right, so this is a zoom in. Oh, sorry. Zoom in, and then other way around, right? We're gonna zoom out. Zooming out means that the camera is going to be able to see more, right? Like, it's the difference between zooming in is like looking at a close-up, and then zooming out is like being in a plane looking at all the small little people, right? Okay, so we got our zoom in and our zoom out. And then we'll just update right here, and update will update the coordinates and then also update the graphics. And then in update the coordinates, because of what we've done with that tile exponent, we got to add some clamping logic. So if the tile exponent is less than 0, then the tile exponent needs to be set to 0, right? So we got to clamp that lower bounds, and then we got to do the same thing with the upper bounds. So this maximum exponent is actually going to differ depending on how big your world map is. So we need to calculate that max exponent on the fly. So it's going to be max exp for max exponent. And if we are greater than the max exponent, then we just want to set ourselves equal to that max exponent. Okay, so what is the max exponent and how do we calculate that? Well, we would calculate that by how many times can you divide the tile map by 2 to reach 1. And I do have the math for that somewhere. I'm not really good with logarithms, but I do have that reference somewhere, so let's find it. I actually have a function that just divides multiple times by 2 until reaching 1, and it does not do it in a loop. There's actually a logarithmic formula you can do for that. So let's go over to my right monitor really quick, and I believe I have like a JavaScript file called I think I called it logbow, and logbow.js, yeah, logbow.js. Okay, so I'm gonna take a look at this. I know I had like a little yeah, so I had some helper functions. I have one that's divide by 2 a certain number of times. Or is it just like a simple log2? Is that all I need to do, like a log2, and then that'll get me... Okay, so I'm going to go over to... I'm checking out Google for a second. So the log2 of 512, what is that? Okay, so the log2 of 512, let me go over to Google here. Log2 of 512 is 9. So that means that if I take 512, I can divide it by 2 9 times before I reach 1. So, and I can prove that, right? So if we go 512 and divide by 2, that's 1 time, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then 9 times, and that should be equal to 1. Okay, and that is equal to 1. And so why is that important? That is important because that tells us that if our tile map is 512 by 512, then the maximum tile exponent is going to be 9, right? Because this 9 here, so 2 to the power of 9. So a tile exponent of 9 gets us 512. So that's all we got to do. So for our code over, oh, sorry, let's go to the other monitor. For our code over here for finding this max exponent, it's going to be var max exponent equals math.pow, Sorry. It's log2. So I believe math.log is log2 when doing JavaScript. Let's make absolutely sure though. Let's go open up a like a JS fiddle. So JS fiddle or JS playground. Hold on. Okay, I'm just gonna open up a JavaScript playground really quick, and we're gonna make sure that log in JavaScript is a log2. So console.log, math.log, and then we'll do a 512. And we will run that. And it is not a log2. Can we write log2? Like, is that a thing? Oh, okay, cool, cool. So we do have a log2, but we have to write log2. Did I write log2 in Google? I think I did. I think the confusion I'm having is that I think log is like normally natural logarithm. Well, it could be natural logarithm or it could be log base 10. I think that's maybe the confusion I had. Okay, but we know it's log2 now, so I was about to make a bad mistake. So, going back to our code, we know we got to take the log2 of the tile map size, and here's our map width and our map height right here. Tile span, tile exponent, map width. Okay, so we gotta take this and we're gonna move this up here. And this is working on the assumption that the map width and the map height are identical. You know, if they're not identical, then we would need like a tile exponent value for the x and for the y, and I have no use for that, so I'm just not going to add it. So what I am going to do though is I'm just going to say that if the map width is not equal to the map height, I'm just going to throw error, and I'm going to say designed for perfectly square tile maps, right? Just a little message for what's going wrong there. So don't assume that any of this logic is correct if the map width and the map height are not identical. Okay, so with that, we can make a variable called map span. So map span equals the map width or the map height, and that is a bitwise OR, and that's just my way of saying it's an arbitrary selection between this and that because they should be identical. So double clicking this, just make sure I don't have that variable declared anywhere else in the function. Doesn't look like it. Okay, so we have the map span in pixels, and all we got to do to find the max exponent now, right? So pretend this is 512 because our level map is 512 by 512. We're going to put that in there, math.log to the map span. That will give us the max exponent. And then we can make sure that we clamp the tile exponent, right, that defines the camera size. So if it's below 0, we're going to set it to 0. And then if it is above the max exponent, we set it to the max exponent. Then the tile span in pixels is taking math.pow to the power of the tile exponent. Woo! Okay, so that should be all we need. Refresh. Okay, nothing unusual. Okay, so moment of truth. Let me open up the debugger first. So F12, and we will move this window over to the side. No? Yes? Okay. Is that... Okay. We're gonna refresh, and we're about to press plus and minus and see what happens. Okay, so something broke. It kind of worked, and then it broke on me. Tile exponent in... Oh, I see. So over here, we made a mistake, and it's this tile exponent, right? That should be a dot, right? Because I have an underscore for my private variables. And did I make that mistake anywhere else? It doesn't look like I did. We'll find out. Going back here, refreshing, keeping the console open. Okay, and then... Okay, so we're zoomed out. So zooming in, right? So if we were at 0, 0 right now, if we zoom in, right, it's gonna be this tile right here. So this diagonal is going to be right in the middle of the screen once we zoom in by once we double the camera size, right? So let's hit plus. Okay, that's what I expected. When we zoom in again, this point right here will be the bottom right of our camera. So let's zoom in again, and we're going to expect just to see a whole bunch of blue. Okay, yep, that's what we saw. And if we're correct, if we hit right, we're going to see a diagonal, right? The right arrow key. Correct. Okay, so let's zoom all the way out again. And let's just zoom in, zoom in, zoom in, zoom in, zoom in, zoom in. Okay, nice, nice, very nice. So zoom in, zoom in, zooming in, zooming in. Okay, so that is working as expected. Right now, you are probably gonna, I'm gonna guess that this would probably gonna be like some camera drift. Yeah, you are gonna have camera drift, right? Because if we go all the way over to the bottom right, if we zoom all the way out, well then the only place we can be at is tile 0, 0. So then when we zoom back in, we're back at 0, 0. So the camera is always going to want to, if you're zooming in and out, the camera is always going to want to drift back to up here, the upper left corner. That is by design. There's nothing wrong with that. That's just the way the math kind of works out. It's just the reality. Eventually we might want something when we're making the tile editor that before we zoom in, it will have a user interface where it puts a grid, a 2x2 grid over this area, and it lets us select either up here to zoom into, up here to zoom into, up here to zoom into, or over here to zoom into. Did I say up for over here? But you get the idea. It'll divide it into 4 quadrants, and then we could like click or something, you know. But this is how I expected it to work, and so we're good. Now we are officially done, and I didn't really screw anything up. Like I didn't shuffle anything around too much. So I think everything, like I don't really want to do another cleanup pass. I think, well, actually, let's clean up. What is this right here? We can clean that up just a little bit. All right, you know what? Let's say that looks good enough. I don't think we've totally botched any of the formatting anywhere. But we do have to make another note that we have one more feature here that has changed since the last post. Pressing plus or minus keys will will zoom in or out by doubling or halving the camera viewport size. By having doubling or halving the camera Okay. Pressing plus or minus keys will zoom in or out by doubling or halving off-screen viewport size. And off-screen, I think, is a compound word, like off-screen. Right? Let's sanity check one more time, and then we're done. Okay, as expected. As expected. Okay, so we're good. We got some good stuff going here. So I'm gonna go post this on Stack Overflow and upload all the videos to YouTube. I don't know if anyone is ever gonna watch this, because I mean, think about how long this just took, because of all of my ranting and whatnot. But I think if you have no clue how to do this, then I think hopefully I'm helping here. Hopefully, you know, somebody's gonna find this useful, because, you know, before I encountered Flixel, I worked with the Flixel engine in Flash once upon a time. Before I encountered that, I had no clue how you would encode, like, tile map logic. It was like a mystery to me. So hopefully, you know, what I'm doing, you know, some rando will find it and it'll help them out and they will make something awesome. See you later.